Welcome to the Jamal Thomas Morning Show. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is indeed my show, and I'm glad that you could join me today. Today is going to be a mess of a show. I am moving. This is going to be the last time I'm at this particular premise. This has been a mess all around, but I definitely wanted to get a show in today. So Laith Marouf is joining me. I'm going to bring him in now because I do not want him to wait. Laith, my man, how are you doing this morning? You doing okay?
Good. Good to see you, Jamal.
It is good to see you too. And just so the audience will know, Laith, come on. Come on. I'm sorry. I was trying to get your bio. Today has been a bit of a mess.
Moving is always a mess.
Yeah,
So
this is it.
I feel for you, man. I feel for you.
Well, I haven't nailed down an apartment yet. And so I've been floating from Airbnb to Airbnb. Laith Marouf is an award-winning multimedia production or producer and broadcasting law consultant. Laith, I brought you on because of what has been taking place in regards to the U.S., in regards to Trump. So I believe this was either yesterday or day before yesterday. Donald Trump comes out and says this, which pissed a lot of people off. To put it mildly. So right here.
And we will own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years. The U.S.
Laith, I want to get your take on this. I'm fascinated by this commentary by Trump on this. I have pointed out before that we can't go back to what it was in October 7th, or it didn't feel like we could go back to that. I mean, we've had Israel murder upwards of 100,000 people, if not more, 2/3 of which were women and children. They've destroyed everything. And so this notion of, okay, let's go back to normal. Okay, I don't know how you go back to normal after that. And so Trump, following Biden, who also wanted to evict the Palestinians, Biden was working behind the scenes to get Egypt and Jordan to effectively take the population into those countries. Both of those countries said no. Trump comes in and is far more open about it. Yeah, we want Egypt and Jordan to take all of the Palestinians. And on that, he piggybacked saying the U.S. will also take control of Gaza and evict the local population into surrounding areas. Again, something that everyone else has said no. Trump is now saying the U.S. is going to take responsibility of Gaza. Give me your take on this. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, there are definitely delusions. This has been the plan or attempted goals of the Israelis since the 1950s. Whether it was by attempting to get Jordan to take the West Bank as part of it, and or Egypt to take Gaza as part of it. The 1967 war, the occupation of those territories by Israel. They also attempted then to expel the Palestinians. Similarly, in 1970s, over and over and over. So it is something that is impossible to achieve. And what we have seen is actually for the last 16 months, the genocide in Gaza was the other alternative that Israel has to deal with the Palestinians without giving them equal rights is to genocide them. So you have only two, if you want to maintain an apartheid state, a colony that is built on the appropriation of the land of the indigenous and exacting them out of the state, there's only two ways. You either expel them or you kill them. There's no third way. And over specifically this last 10 years, Palestinian population has already bounced back to be the majority of the people living within the area between the river and the sea that we would call Palestine. And that meant the Zionist project, after 100 years, has already failed. As long as the indigenous population is more than the colonists, naturally the state will revert back to the indigenous people. Okay, the only successful colonial projects are the ones that kill off the indigenous population or make them into a small minority, say Canada, the US, Australia, New Zealand. South Africa failed as a colonial state. French Algeria failed as a colonial state because the indigenous population was larger than the colonists, period. So, and you know, one thing that we need to note from what Trump said is that he quoted for the second time the number of 1.8 million Palestinians or 1.7 million Palestinians from Gaza, which means that actually, according to the intelligence information that Emperor Trump has, the Israelis have genocided at least 500,000 Palestinians actually in Gaza, not the small number that we hear about. And that means that includes, of course, everybody that died from medical neglect, from starvation, and what have you, beyond people that died directly by the war. So I would say this is, you know, Trump just rattling the cage. He's raising the stakes to try to get a better hand at the negotiations of whatever Israel wants from Gaza. But ultimately, the Palestinians, after 100 years of this war of colonization, have yet to be defeated and or to submit to the will of the empires that have been attempting to colonize them for 100 years now.
Yeah, it's outrageous. I mean, when you think about it, he is effectively talking about taking over Gaza. Like, it's such a weird plan. I mean, because the first thought is like, well, how does the United States have control of Gaza? What right does the United States have to control this particular territory at all, in either a legal sense or any other sense? It's very strange. Saudi Arabia has effectively attacked this plan. In fact, all Muslim countries have effectively pushed back on this particular plan. Let me ask you this. Does the United States have any kind of leverage in order to do this? Meaning, do they have any capability of forcing Egypt or forcing Jordan to take the Palestinian population?
Well, look, both Jordan and Egypt are vassal states. The king of Jordan is half British, and his older brother, that's fully Arabic, was not allowed to be the king, basically. You know, and the United States has thousands upon thousands of soldiers inside Jordan. Jordan has zero economy in terms of exports beyond vegetables to the Gulf. So it lives off the handouts from the United States and the West. So, you know, but at the same time, accepting Palestinian refugees in Jordan will be suicide for the king. Even if he wants to appease master in the White House, this will be like shooting himself in the head, because within minutes there will be a revolution inside Jordan. And Egypt, it's very similar situation. You know, the country is hanging on a thread. It has war on all sides, in Libya, in Sudan, in Gaza. And the water is being cut off by Ethiopia, and then you had the war in the Red Sea with the cutting off of the Suez Canal revenues. But again, the state of Egypt, historically, the military is the control valve in the society, and the Egyptian military knows that this will be total humiliation if they accept. Therefore, even if Sisi wants to do it, he can't. He knows that somebody is going to shoot him in the head. Some general is going to just take him out. And the people of Sina, the Sinai Peninsula, there's not much population there. An influx of Palestinians into Sina will mean it will become Palestinian territory. The majority will be Palestinians there. Therefore, it will be, the state losing control. And as we saw over the last 100 years, anytime a neighboring country, there's Palestinians, refugees in it, it becomes grounds for rebellion or revolution from, whether it's Lebanon or Jordan or so on. And so it's not something that Egypt will do, not because, again, it doesn't want to appease the White House and master in the White House, but because it's against suicide. And I don't think the Saudis can either accept it again, because, and look at what the situation they're left with now, specifically these countries that opposed the axis of resistance over the last 6 months, the military operations that Yemen, Lebanon, Iran conducted to support the Palestinians. Jordan and Egypt and Saudi were intercepting missiles and drones flying from these countries. But just a few hours ago, we heard the Foreign Affairs Minister of Jordan saying that if there's one Palestinian that is forcefully pushed towards the Jordanian territory, that it will be a declaration of war, and they're massing the Jordanian military on the border right now. Similarly, Egypt, by the way, has already amassed thousands upon thousands of armored vehicles over the last few months. It's like the biggest concentration of Egyptian military in history since the last 1973 war in one place, and it's all on the border of Gaza and occupied Palestine in the Sinai Peninsula. So these two countries will have to go to war to defend themselves alone because of their stupidity and their total subservient to the Americans during the genocide, when they could have actually joined with the axis of resistance and opened those fronts and saved the Palestinians and ended the existence of the Zionist colony, period. If it was a combined attack from the axis of resistance with these two countries that actually blocked the path of liberation. So, we're moving to interesting times. I don't know if actually Trump is going to try to do this or not, but he's definitely, I love having Trump as an emperor because things are right in the open, right?
Yeah, he's honest.
He's
been very honest about what he wants.
Yeah. Biden wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And attempted to do it without telling anybody.
Yeah.
With putting that pier in the water and bringing special forces, and then it didn't work. The only reason Biden didn't do it is that they attempted to do it and they lost, and they were not able to. So it's a delusion, I think, by Trump. Somebody I saw yesterday online asked DeepSeek AI, gave them all the military and geographic coordinates of population and so forth, and previous wars in Gaza and the current war, and asked how many American soldiers would be required to occupy Gaza and to expel the Palestinians. And you're talking about over 500,000.
Wow.
Okay, so the Israelis attempted with a couple of 100,000 and they lost. So it will require at least 500,000 American soldiers to come on the ground, and they're not going to win even with 500,000.
Yeah, that's astonishing. I don't even know if America would be okay with this. Here's another clip of this, him sitting beside a war criminal. And listen to this.
Peter? Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was happening?
It would be my hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell. It's been one of the meanest, toughest places on earth. And right now, I've seen every picture from every angle, better than if I were there. And nobody can live there. You can't live there. So if we can build them through massive amounts of money supplied by other people, very rich nations, and they're willing to supply it. If we can build something for them in one of the countries, and it could be Jordan, it could be Egypt, it could be other countries, and you could build 4 or 5 or 6 areas. It doesn't have to be one area, but you take certain areas and you build really good quality housing, like a beautiful town, like.
You know, I think the joke or the lie in all of this is that if he did this, that the Palestinians will be able to return. Nobody believes that Israel is going to reallow or allow Palestinians back into that territory if they are expelled from the territory. Meaning the moment that you, and I would imagine forcibly evict, ethnically cleanse Gaza, or for that matter, even the West Bank, because Israel is effectively doing very similar things in the West Bank at this point, they're not allowed back in. I mean, Donald Trump is talking about this like, well, we'll go in, we'll take the territory, we'll build up all of these hotels, there'll be Trump towers all over the place, people will love it, and then the Palestinians could come back, and there'll be world peace, and the Middle East issue will be solved. I mean, this is fantasy, correct?
Yeah, it is fantasy. And look, it's obvious that the Western elite, including the American ruling class, love Jewish people more than they love themselves or love their citizens or love their own religion or whatever it is. And since they're in so much love with Jewish people, maybe they should be the ones taking all the Jews from Palestine. Okay, they can take them back to New York, Toronto, to London, to Paris, and enjoy their love affair with them. Nobody will be accepting in our region here to forcefully displace their brothers and sisters from their own land in Palestine. And if any state does hint to approval to what Trump wants, it will be the end of that state. So this is why just a few hours ago, the Minister of War of the Zionist colony made a public statement saying that Ireland, Sweden, and Spain should be taking the Palestinians of Gaza as a punishment for their positions, public positions against the genocide in Gaza and their involvement in the international courts on this issue. So, well, if the Zionists have so much influence over Western capitals, yeah, let's take all the Zionists away anyways. Already, according to Israeli government numbers, at least 600,000 Israelis have received citizenship over the last 16 months in European states or their former colonies like Canada, the US, and so on. These are people that don't have dual citizenship before, okay? Add to it that at least 1.5 million dual citizens left already. We're talking about over 2 million Israelis already gone.
Yeah.
There's not much left. There's just 4.5 million left. Take them. Take them in the prairies. If you don't want to put them in New York, I mean, New York already is another Israel. It hosts already the other, 40% of the Jews outside Israel.
Yeah.
Take them there. Let it. It's not. This is more realistic, and I think this is where we're going. The Zionist colony has ended. Its legitimacy to exist has ended, and actually, what Trump just did emphasized the acceleration in the deterioration of the colony. Right now, those statements by Trump, I think, shocked the even countries like the Nazis of Germany, with their Nazi green foreign affairs minister. She's now calling it a war crime. It will be if they, apparently it's not a war crime to commit genocide in Gaza, but it's now a war crime to expel the Palestinians. So you could see that Germany, France, and Spain, all of them made statements that this isn't against international law. And so I don't know. These are the last moments we will see of legitimacy for the Zionist colony. And pretty soon, I hope actually, that the Zionists are stupid enough, Trump is stupid enough, wild, crazy enough to push the Palestinians forcefully into Jordan and to Egypt, so their vessels, regimes collapse. I hope so, because those vassal regimes have been the best guards on the border for Israel to protect its flanks in Palestine, in Jordan, and the Sinai Peninsula. Those two flanks, if they're open, those war fronts, there will be no more Israel, because already the north and is open with Lebanon, with the actual resistance ready to defeat the Zionist colony.
Do you think this is the reason that Netanyahu was in the United States? To effectively, and I guess there are two items for this. In one sense, the reporting is saying that Netanyahu was pushing Trump to go after Iran. They're coming up with this idea that Iran is trying to fast track a nuclear weapon and that they want Donald Trump to effectively attack Iran. There's one angle. The other angle has to do with the deal in Gaza, that they wanted Trump to effectively get rid of that deal. And, after that meeting, Donald Trump comes out and effectively says this. I mean, what do you think Netanyahu's influence in this is? Do you really think that Netanyahu effectively said, hey, get rid of the Palestinian population? Basically, that this is Netanyahu's idea, not Trump's idea.
Well, I mean, the man arrived at the White House with a golden pager and a real pager as a gift to Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, some people were thinking it's a joke, but I mean, the guy gave him a real pager. That's a death threat. He's telling Trump, you do as you're told, or you will be taken out. As it was a simple thing like a pager. We can do this. So, and you saw that picture of Trump, pushing the chair under Netanyahu to sit down. I mean, I wouldn't do that to my best friend if they're male. Maybe I'll do it for a friend, female, or my wife. But when did you ever see in your life two straight men, not gay, pushing a chair under the other one? That shows you that's the psychological. If you study that, it's clear who's the boss.
Show of dominance.
Show of dominance. Clear show of dominance. One is an alpha and the other is the beta. And the beta in this situation is the cowboy. Okay, maybe it was bareback. I don't know, cowboy. I have no idea what's the story here. Obviously, they have a lot on Trump being a sexual addict. From the stories that probably happened on the Epstein Island and the pictures and the videos of that. Remember when in his first term, they were talking about the Russians having a video of Trump peeing on golden shower on some prostitute, and they probably have those videos were not in Russia, and the Russians didn't have them. That is Epstein and the Israelis that have those videos.
I said Trump had a hooker pee on a bed because he was so angry at Obama. Just outright nonsense. So, here's another one. Yeah. Oh, please.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, here's another one where they're asking him the most operative question in the world. What legitimacy do you have to do this? Meaning,
by the Palestinians.
How, as an American president, are you saying you're going to take over a completely different territory in a completely different part of the world that you have no legal legitimacy, moral, ethical legitimacy to at all?
You are talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there, redevelopment? And Mr. Prime Minister, do you see this idea as a way to expand the boundaries of Israel and to have a longer peace, even though the Israeli people know how important that land is to you and your citizens, just as the space is inherited by the Palestinians as well?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area that nobody would know. Nobody can look because all they see is death and destruction and rubble and demolished buildings falling all over. It's just a terrible sight. I've studied it. I've studied this very closely over a lot of months, and I've seen it from every different angle. And it's a very, very dangerous place to be. And it's only going to get worse. And I think this is an idea that's gotten tremendous, and I'm talking about from the highest level of leadership, gotten tremendous praise. And if the United States can help to bring stability and peace in the Middle East, we'll do that. Baby?
Trump is acting as if it's just magically dangerous. Like, it's just dangerous because it's dangerous, not because the war criminal standing right beside him has murdered hundreds of thousands of people. He's acting like it's just magically dangerous. This area, it just so happens to be this way. Like there are traps that are coming out of the ground and whatnot. Dude, you are standing beside the war criminal that is directly responsible for killing hundreds of thousands of people, 2/3 of which are women and children. And again, this fantasy that he is going to somehow build up this territory and then what? Allow the Palestinians back in, with Trump talking about this kind of long-term ownership position. Either he was given bad data, meaning either somebody explained something to him in a way that was completely jaded, or Trump is just lying. I don't know which, because it could be either, and it could be a bit of both in this. He's talking about this as being a peaceful solution. Is this a peaceful solution? I get the sense that this will be just utter chaos.
Look, when I watched this video before, I thought, the first thought I thought that was like, what a stupid journalist. She couldn't put together one question straight without having to fumble to try to find words that are not hurtful to the master, Netanyahu, and or to the boss. Somehow she couldn't get it, and then she threw in too many questions in one, and then that made it that Trump can answer whatever he wants to, and he definitely didn't answer the question.
Yeah.
He didn't, at all. He just went around it, and that shows you the training and conditioning of mainstream journalists in the West. How bad it is right now. How these journalists have been conditioned to, fail their duties. So look, truth of the matter. In 100 years from now, when you will go study geography in high school, they will draw the maps of the American Empire. And it will start from 1945, the end of World War II, and everything that fell under its domain. Okay. And none of these statelets or vassals will be considered independent. They will be all drawn within the American imperial domains. And that includes the whole Zionist colony and Palestine. Palestinians are subjects of the American empire, truthfully. Right now, Syrians are subjects of the American empire.
Right.
Also. I, as a Syrian, as a Palestinian, I should have say in who's the emperor. Okay, but I don't. I mean, the problem with the American imperialism is that unlike, let's say, Rome gave citizenship to every territory it occupied, including Syria that it occupied. There was a lot of Syrian emperors, by the way, in Rome. These people don't know this. But that's the difference between, what the U.S. is trying to do as an empire and empires before that could last. The U.S. empire is not going to last because it keeps on occupying and not giving citizenship or representation to people it occupies. It only loots them and mass kills them, as is happening. Now, Is he going to do it? I don't think he can do it. I wish he tries. I hope he tries to do it. This is the best thing that we can dream about as Palestinians, is that the US finally comes to the ground of Palestine directly, so we can take out some Yankees, some gringos that have been hiding behind Israel and bombing us. You know, it'll be a joyous day when American soldiers die on the ground of Palestine. I tell you that.
How would you have asked that question? Because as you pointed out, she asked the question, like, she didn't kind of want to point out, this idea of, okay, well, you have no legal legitimacy to this. How on earth are you planning on doing this? Which would have been just one question. She had several, all in that kind of one thing. How would you have asked that question to get to the heart of the matter?
Well, it's basically, if the question would be, under international law, Palestine would be occupied territory, Gaza would be occupied territory, and the Americans would be the occupying force. And then, what does this entail to America and American soldiers and resistance to their presence there? There's been hordes of occupiers in Palestine over the last 6,000 years. Every major empire occupied Palestine at some point, and every major empire ended its imperial era by exiting Palestine, including Britain, the last occupier before the Israelis. So, 1948 was the dual exit from Palestine and from India that ended the history of British imperialism. So I think Palestine will be also the graveyard of the American empire, because of what we've seen over the last 16 months and the destruction of international order that the US is bent on.
Last question on this one, Laith. How do you think this turns out? I mean, assume for the moment that he can't do this. Because I got to be honest, I have no idea how he would go about doing something like this. But assume that he can't, meaning he cannot do this. Then what? I mean, because truth be told, look, as egregious as what Donald Trump is saying here, there is an issue. And that issue is that Israel has destroyed all of it. There is nothing for those people to go back to. I mean, we're talking about effectively place where like 80% of the territory has been destroyed, like buildings, all of that stuff is gone. Hospitals are gone, schools gone, UN buildings gone. And even to the point of killing, like I said, hundreds of thousands of people, 2/3 of which are women and children. Where do those people go back to? So I get this kind of the thought process that Donald Trump is going with. The problem is that ideally you would say, okay, well, we're going to give Palestine a state. And in addition to having Palestine have a state, we're going to build up that state. That is not part of his thought process. That doesn't seem to settle in regards to the way that he's thinking, even though many of the other countries around the area are effectively saying that Palestine needs a state. If he is not going to be able to do that, then what? Meaning, what are we looking at for this area if Trump can't do what Trump is saying he wants to do? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing is the expansion of the war into the West Bank over the last 3 weeks.
Right.
Destruction of Jenin, Tul Kerem, Nablus, and all the refugee camps. The whole north of the West Bank is under a campaign that is very similar to what happened to Gaza. Total destruction and expulsion. There's almost 200,000 Palestinians from those 3 cities that are now displaced. So this is the projection of where we're going. The war, since 1948, is very simple. The issue is one side wants to create an apartheid colony with colonists coming from outside the country. The other wants to have an equal status, even if there's settlers or colonists or immigrants.
Right.
One side accepts that we're all human, equal human with no hierarchy. And the other says that there's a chosen people and a hierarchy in the human life worth. So as long as there's that dichotomy, we're going to continue to have war until one of the two sides is defeated completely. And in the situation of the Palestinians, to defeat them means to genocide them or expel them to become an insignificant minority.
Yeah.
The victory for the Palestinian does not mean the genocide and expulsion of the colonists. Just a victory of the Palestinians, just because of their numerical advance. They can live with the colonists there, just like the colonists in South Africa stayed, or what have you. It's not gonna. The Palestinians are not there trying to kill Jews because of their Jews. They're trying to fight their colonizer, and if their colonizer accepts equality, then they don't need to kill them. Now, this is why over the last 16 months, Netanyahu and Ben Gvir and Smotrich repeated over and over that this is a war of existence. If the Israelis do not manage now to cull the Palestinian population to an insignificant percentage of who lives between the river and the sea, there ceases to exist in Israel.
Yeah, I think people need to reconcile that. And that the only way for Israel to get what it wants is to either expel or to kill the population. There is no middle ground in that. I mean, either you're going to have one man, one vote, or you're stuck with this idea of how do we create this Jewish state that evicts and eliminates the Palestinian population. Yeah, man, this is disturbing.